Like when I had my accident, they came to the set when nobody was allowed, and they took a shot from far because I still had the scars, and they put a picture on Stardust, and they wrote that Mahima's had an accident, and we can finally call her. She's got scars all over her face, and we can actually call her Scarface. It still hurts me. So the glass came
So you
like
were driving?
No, I wasn't driving. They were the driver. So the glass came like bullets into my face, like splintered. So they went in tuck, 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 all over the face. They didn't hit me anywhere else, and I didn't break any bones. It's just my face. And I was giving this shot, and I was giving long shots, and suddenly he just kept bringing the camera closer and closer. It's still, it's one of those things which stays with you, and you can imagine if I'm still hurting, what it felt like. You don't tell your parents, you don't tell your people, because you feel, oh, this was one issue, and then you stay back, and then one more issue, and then you stay back, and then I was also expecting another child, and then I was like, I had a miscarriage, and then I had another miscarriage, and it was all because of you not being happy in that space. Even if somebody said something marginally something to me, I started crying. I was depressed that time. The minute I used to leave town, he used to come and take the child, because he used to tell my mother, she's my child and I need to take her, and my mother couldn't say anything because it is his child, right?
So this has to be undoubtedly my most favorite episode of Her Story, because being a 90s kid, I have grown up watching her, admiring her, respecting her, loving her. And today I am joined by Mahima Chaudhary, only on Bollywood Bubbles Her Story, and I can't say that I don't know what to say, I'm very happy. Coming from a small town like Darjeeling,
Yes.
and making it big in Bollywood, and you know the entire trajectory,
Yeah.
you've lived the common girl's dream. How did you see yourself when you got that first break?
I did my first commercial with Aamir and Aishwarya, which was the Pepsi commercial, and then it was shown on every cricket match, between every cricket match, so it became very popular and all. And I was not from here, obviously Darjeeling, and then I was like, shit, now what? Everyone says, oh, now what's happening? I was like, no, that was just it, that was one of the things that happened. And I said, now the next call I get, I'm going to go. And the next call I got was for this big launch of Camay soap. You remember Camay soap?
Yeah, CAMAY.
So when I came here, I never went back after that. I took up a place on rent with another girl, and then I was like, let me just see what I can do with my life here. So I did that for a year, and I got calls because I also did a television show called Public Demand, and I was on Channel V. And at that time they were saying, don't do television if you want to do movies, and I had no choice because I needed time to be ready for a movie.
And also financially support yourself.
Yeah, and for example, I remember Mani Ratnam soon after Pepsi offered me a film, and I went there and I did the screen test and I got it, and then I came back and I told him that I'm not ready, and he was very angry. And I still have his check which he gave me in my file, because that was the first film check I got. But he was very angry, and he said, if you were so unsure, you shouldn't have wasted my time. And so I realized that I needed to be ready in order to do this, and I met up. Feroz Khan called me, Leila called me, seeing one of my ads, and she says, we're thinking of launching Fardeen, and it's very important to know who you are.
True.
What you're capable of.
Absolutely.
Nobody knows you better than you, and I knew I was not a suave, sexy bikini girl, and Feroz Khan's films are very glamorous and
that
sexy.
way.
And I was not. I didn't grow up in Darjeeling in a swimming pool, so I was more of a mountain girl running, and I was okay with shorts and a bit of that, but I wasn't that, so I didn't take that up. And then I met a wonderful person, Vinod Chopra, who wanted to cast me for Kareeb, and I was trained for Kareeb.
So there are so many films that
And then he just postponed it, and along came Pardes, and I tested.
Another thing that played out is networking of any type.
Yeah.
Lobby.
Yeah.
जो होता था आज के ज़माने में लोग nepotism बोलते हैं मैं nepotism नहीं बोल रहा I'm talking about lobbying Like, you know, somebody who's dating somebody would get a film and the other one would
that was very obvious.
Yeah, and has that happened? Have you been a victim to that?
That happened a lot. That happened a lot, for sure. Yeah.
But have you been a victim to that?
I don't know if this was because of that, but there were two films which I can clearly think which was on this lines. Was when I was doing Pardes, I was offered Satya. Mr. Ram Gopal Verma used to be doing dubbing for his film, and then he met me and he says, I'm doing this very small film which I want to prepare quickly. It's about a gangster and there's no part for a girl. And I heard the story while we used to sit in between the chai and all. I was like, very good. I said, I want to do this. And Mr. Ghai actually told me, इतनी बड़ी पिक्चर के बाद परदेस के बाद तुम एक छोटी सी गैंगस्टर पिक्चर करोगी इसलिए मैंने तुम्हें लॉन्च किया. I was like, no, it's really nice. So I said okay to it, and then you know, my manager went and we did the formalities and stuff like that. And then I said in my interviews, I'm doing Satya and all that, my next film, and then they started the shoot. I was supposed to start shoot in 2 days, but they already started the shoot 1 day earlier with another actor who was in all his productions, and he didn't even think it was important to call me or to call my manager and say that, you know, we changed our mind. And I had to hear from it from the press, and that time the press can be very mean and say, oh, you've been thrown out, and you know, I'm like, yeah, and I was humiliated and insulted, and I was, you know, like I was really, I took it badly. Yeah.
I think press was very unkind at that point.
Yeah,
especially the gossip columns and the magazine stories. Like when I read those things, I feel like, how did these people even?
Yeah, like when I had my accident, they came to the set when nobody was allowed, and they took a shot from far because I still had the scars, and they put a picture on Stardust, and they wrote that Mahima's had an accident, and we can finally call her. She's got scars all over her face, and we can actually call her Scarface. It still hurts me. So, how nasty can you be? I'm not ready. The set is up, the movie is held up because of one song. I'm healing. And Ajay and Kajal, who were my producers and director, they saw to it that nobody in the industry got to know about it, because at that time it would have devastated my career. You know?
True. Back then
I knew I was not going to make a comeback. I thought it would never heal, I would never look normal. But they were like, Ajay was like, I get scars like this all the time, see this, see this. And I was like, he's just being nice because he just wants me not to lose heart. But actually he was right, you know. So yeah, he was a very generous producer. He just looked after everything, sending me to the right doctors and seeing to it that I got the best treatment, because we were quite new to Mumbai. You know, we've done one film and here and there, and my mother had no clue. So he says, no, you're not doing this treatment in Bangalore. I'm taking you to Bombay. I'm sending you to the best. And his manager at that time was always with us, and they looked after us. They never once called us and said, are you ready? The other producers were hounding us because they were not clear about how much I have hurt myself. Yeah.
But what actually happened?
It was the last day of shoot in Bangalore, and I was going from the hotel to the school where the shoot was with the child and everything. And it was early morning, and normally you get staff to be in the car ahead of you or behind you, and I was ready at 5:30 and I was supposed to be there at 7.
By the way, you were ready here.
Yeah, here also. So I told my staff, I said, why don't you go, otherwise they'll think I'm not ready. Then my mother said, why are you sitting here if you're ready? Why can't you go and sit there? I was like, yeah, actually good question. And then they had already left, and then I sat in the car and went. And a doodh wala truck was coming from the wrong side, and we were going roundabout, and he just came and took my car and smashed it against the roundabout. You know, sometimes you feel the car is coming from here and you go like this, and oh, पीछे से निकल जाती है गाड़ी, इस बार नहीं निकली. It came and rammed into me, and I was still looking like this. So the glass came
you were driving?
No, I wasn't driving. There was a driver. So the glass came like bullets into my face, like splintered. So they went and tuck, 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 all over the face. They didn't hit me anywhere else, and I didn't break any bones. It's just my face. That's the only time I saw my father cry. Is obviously he came a day after the surgery had happened, and they have to scrub you and take out all the glass pieces, and then after the surgery is when the devastation shows, the swelling happens, and the doctor said that take off all the mirrors, don't look at yourself till you heal properly because it's going to swell. And my dad was like, she's had an accident but you're not responding, so he just took a flight and came and just sat on my bed and he said, He went like that. I just saw my dad. My dad is a jot. He's like strong. He's a sports person. He always tells me, like when I'm heartbroken and I say, Papa, I'm more close to him than my mother. And I used to call him and I say, Papa, my heart is broken or I'm crushed. And he said, no, not my daughter. You're going to pick up yourself and you're going to move on. And this time he just sat and he couldn't hold it. You know, he says, "Sirf chehre pe laga hai." And why her? You know. And he had taught me that never say why me, because when good things are happening to you, you never say why me. And that's the time he sat and he says, "Isko kyun laga? Isko kyun laga? Aur sirf chehre pe laga hai, bacche ke sirf chehre pe laga hai." And I had to just be strong. They all had hopes I would be fine, but I had no hope. I was clear. While lying down, while sitting, while healing, I was preparing a life away from cinema. And I was learning to cope with it, that how am I going to face the world, how am I going to go about my daily life, and how am I going to do stuff. And you know, I was just preparing myself for that. So anything that happened post that was God's gift.
But you know, like I said, that you never were a victim. You came out as a victor, and that is what kept you going. I think the spirit and the zeal that you had towards life and cinema, I think that kept you and that got you back. When you faced the camera the first time after that, how difficult was it?
First time, there was another guest appearance I was doing in another film with Ajay, and that director was not aware of it. Prakash Jha never called me. But he was like, I put up the set, we'll do a 2-day shoot and all. I came under so much pressure where I wanted to tell people I'm normal, I'm actually can do it. And then I very gently told him, I said, can you just do long shots? And he says, yeah, I'll wrap up the scene in a long shot. Yeah, no close shots. And then when I reached there, I was hiding my left side. My left side was more hurt. And then he looked at it from far and I said, no, don't come near. And then I said, I'll just see you on the set. And I went on the set. And I was hiding and I was giving this shot and I was giving long shots. And suddenly he just kept bringing the camera closer and closer. It's still, you know, it's one of those things which stays with you. And you can imagine if I'm still hurting, what it felt like. And I was more difficult to keep a straight face than I am now. And Ajay just looked at me and just, you're not ready? I said, no, I'm not, I can't do it. And then he just said, just let her be. And then he told the director, why? She's just getting off this accident and it's okay, things can wait. You know, let's not do this. Give her time. And he says, I'll have to dismantle this set. He says, yeah, do it. And I remember post that, the director went and told people, oh, Ajay Devgan is in love with her. And there were rumors in the magazines that, you know, I was seeing Ajay Devgan. And that time people did that stuff. You know, they used to keep linking you up and stuff like that. And that made me even more uncomfortable. And the press people used to say...
Just a point, just a response which is human enough has been conspired to make it look like that.
And he had actually just gotten married, you know, sometime back when we were doing Dil Kya Kare, and that film was not even complete and they got married while we were doing that film. And just because he said, no, let's just let her get over this, you know, let her be prepared emotionally to be in front of the camera. And then I went and did a press shot with Gautam Rajadhaksh and Mickey Contractor.
That is how many months after?
Around that time, around a month later. And obviously I told Mickey because he could see me without the makeup and he says, you're going to look beautiful. And that is still one of my best shots on my WhatsApp. That is my DP. That is Gautam Rajadhaksh. And he says, oh, he gave me so many compliments, you're so mumtaz. But I don't have a single shot smiling because if I smiled, I used to shiver. So all my shots are, and he made me look nice. And I have this misconception that without a smile, I don't look nice because people keep saying, you have a nice smile, you have a nice smile. So I smile in every picture.
But Mahima ma'am, Tabhi ke liye, when did you come to terms with what was happening with you? Like when did you get past it? Because everybody can come and give you dilasa, you know, but you said that you in your head knew that maybe I'm never going to come out of it. Was that photo shoot it or?
Yeah, the photo shoot. And then when I went back to the set with Prakash Jha and Ajay, and then they would look at some scenes that I'm doing and they said, बहुत अच्छा किया, बहुत अच्छा किया. And I was doing my emotional scenes.
It was one of your finest performances.
Yeah.
Dil Kya Kare.
And there's one scene in the courtroom where it is a long shot, and I actually cried when they're taking the child away, because I had so much filled up in me, and those were normal takes. And Prakash Jha just said that, you know, you've done so well, and everybody started appreciating me. And then I did other films, and they were like, you were very good. And somewhere along the line, I was able to use that to do my performances, and my eyes were never dead after that.
Yeah.
You know, they say when you look in the camera, it's the thoughts that are going inside. I was just so grateful to be back. That
Doing
they
what you love
told
doing.
me, smile into the camera. I smiled no matter how tired I was. And they said, oh, this is a small part, I did it. And this is a big part, I did it. And I did small, big, all of that. I did a film with Dharmesh Darshan where Mela had come, it hadn't done well. And he says, we have another film which is already ready and it's not been released, and it's Dhadkan. And we were thinking of the end as Sunil Shetty dying, and now we want to make it a more now kind of film. So we want to brush it up and bring another love
Heroine,
angle.
yeah.
And he came,
My favorite song.
Oh, that was never going to happen. So he came and met me, and he says, we want to do this. And I was like, I've done too many walk-in parts, and everyone says I've become this special appearance heroine.
That also happened to you.
Yeah, so that the next day before the shoot, I said, we'll go to his house and tell him no. So me and my manager, we went there, and he said, sir, we've just come to see you. And he says, oh, very good, we'll come and show you the film. And I was like, okay. So then he shows us the film, and I see the film. And in the first 3 reels, it's like this guy is so in love with her, and then the girl comes and says, I don't want to marry you, and his mother dies. I was like, oh God, I hope this guy never ends up with her. He needs someone else. And I was like, I want to be that someone else. And my manager's like, nee, it's just today's role, and you know, it's just guest appearance. And I was like, you watch, you know, I want to do this. I want this guy to get someone better.
But also, being a woman, you know, you're subjected to much more than a man in any vertical of the society that we live in, unfortunately.
Just generally in life, the laws are also not very
Kind towards women.
kind towards women. And this I understand when I separated, and we were thinking of putting Ariana to a school, my daughter, and her father said that it'll be this school, and I said no, I want to try out something else. These are the kind of schools that I've been to, you know, the convents. Let's try out these kind of schools. And he was like, no, okay, there's that. And then we had a long conversation, and then he was like, yeah, okay, let's try it. I said, if it's not good, we can always pull her out and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah. And this is when, you know, you're having issues and you're not agreeing on anything. And this happened to be another thing that we were not agreeing on. And so he says like, oh, okay, we'll go for it. And then I go for it, and a night before he's leaving for his European tour, suddenly he changes his mind again, and he says, no, I've decided that she's not going, and she's going to this school that I went to. I was like, no, she's not. He's saying, okay, I'm not going to sign for it. I'm like, don't sign. And he left for his trip abroad, and it was a 14-day trip. And I went back to the school, and I remember discussing with my friends that night, and they said, have you decided on the school? And I said, yeah, this one. And they said, oh, very good, you're putting that school. I said, yeah. He was saying this one, and I said no, and he said he's not going to sign. He's not going to sign, so big deal. But I go to the school, and I give them the form, and they looked at it, and they said, oh, the father hasn't signed. And I said, he's out of town, so he'll be back in like 4 days. Oh, when he's back, can we have him in here so that he signs? It's like, wow, I didn't know this. So I called my lawyer, and I said, I'm in this situation where you know, guns are drawn on which school, and I just faced this situation. And he says, actually, you're right. You know, the father's signature is very important on an admission form. Did you know this? They said it is. If you are married, he's the guardian. If you were not married, the mother is the guardian.
Oh, by then the divorce had not come through.
No, we were still together.
Yeah.
But we were just having differences on everything. And I was like, oh, who needs your signature? I'm going to put it in there. But this is there. He says, if you are married, he's the guardian. And if you're not married, the mother is the guardian.
Okay.
So I was like, damn. He says, anyway, give me some time. So then he comes back and he says, you know what, you're in luck. The right to education bill just got passed. So if the school has accepted your form and given her the admission, they can't throw her out because of the father's signature. So it was that saved me.
When did you realize that these are the first signs that, you know, my marriage is not really
No,
working?
these were not the first signs for sure, but there were lots of other signs. And then you obviously don't, you don't tell your parents, you don't tell your people, because you feel, oh, this was one issue, and then you stay back, and then one more issue, and then you stay back. And then I also had I was also expecting another child, and then I was like, I had a miscarriage, and then I had another miscarriage, and it was all because of, you know, you not being happy in that space. And every time I wanted to go out and do an event or go out and do a show, I used to come drop my child at my mother's home, and then I used to stay back 2 days, and I used to feel I'm so much more comfortable here. And you know what happens is earlier it used to be like, oh, inka divorce ho gaya times, but now the times are where people are very supportive if you are not happy. In fact, if
it's
you
not
are
a taboo term anymore.
Yeah, in fact it's the reverse. If you're uncomfortable, you make your family uncomfortable, because they don't know how to treat you when they come. They know inka jhagda chal raha hai, ha, hello bete, and all. And even your friends and even the society. And then you can't do, oh, happy new year to my darling and happy anniversary, and people are like, oh really? You know, people snigger at couples like that who are putting on an act. You know, they are much more comfortable when you come out and tell them that this is not working out. Your family is finally more comfortable. So my mother was finally more comfortable when I came and told her. She says, I saw you struggling. I saw you go up and down. And why are you beating yourself up if it's not? Stay here for a while and see. Does it make you feel better? Because he'll come back and say that, okay, I'm going to do this and it's going to be different, and then it wasn't. And then she says, don't beat yourself up. And they were all supportive. My sister was supportive, and everybody was supportive. And then I just thought this is a better place for my child to grow up, and kids grow up better with grandparents anyway.
I do agree.
You know, and we think that the kids are not well equipped for this, but now I meet my friends and they tell me that, you know, my kids who are now 16, 17, they say, Mama and Papa, don't suffer each other because of us. We are fine. I mean, we've known since we were 7 years old.
A lot of divorces, I think, a lot of people don't really get out of a troubled marriage because of their kids.
They say that, but today the kids are like, don't suffer each other because of us. You know?
Like you said, if you want to address it, because you addressed something that not many public figures have addressed. You said that you suffered miscarriages.
Yeah.
During a troubled marriage, that is the time when you need your partner to stand by you.
Yeah.
Did you have your partner?
No. And I thought sometimes people can be very insensitive. And one of my favorite movies is, you know, The War of the Roses, where they're so in love and they buy this home and they do it up, and at the end of the day he's like cutting her high heels and, you know, she's banging into his stuff, and it gets to that.
Yeah.
That's why the person you say you can't live without, then you're like, I can live with anyone but this person. And you can be lonely in a marriage when you feel very alone, because you can't speak to your family, you can't speak to your friends, you haven't started sharing, and it's difficult with the person that you are living with. It can get very, very lonely. And then when I came back to Mom's house and I started living there, it was lovely. And just then my mom gets detected with Parkinson's, and she was just having falls, and it would happen on a day when I would fly out to do an event, and they say, my staff used to call and say, Mummy gir gayi. And then I asked her, and then one day she's a very strong lady, and she was helping me through this whole thing, and like, we'll get ahead of this together, I'll take care of your child, you go out to work. And then suddenly she sat on the bed and she says, no, it's something different. I'm not tripping. I'm just freezing. And then my brother said, take her to a neurologist, and we did. And then we were briefed that this is how her next 10 years are going to play out. So then my concentration was on that. That was, if there is any place that I was depressed in, it was during that time. When I was hit with mummies,
by the news.
And then it started playing out exactly like the doctor was saying. First we were in denial. I was like, no, it's not this, it's something else. that was my most depressing. I would, even if somebody said something marginally something to me, I started crying. I was depressed that time. I was.
But you know, having your family, having your sister by your side all the time, you know, like people say that when people get separated, they have to, the mother always becomes a single parent, but you were not.
Yeah.
If I may say, because I met your sister and she's lovely. You had your mother, you had your sister, you had your family around.
And my dad.
Yeah, I'm saying that's why, but the women especially in your life, to take care of your kids along with you. It was not like you have shirked off your responsibility. How did you deal with that? Were you at least at ease?
I was. And the kids were at ease. You know, first day of school, they were made to draw a portrait of their family members. And both the kids drew two mamas.
How nice.
Yeah, because my sister's a single parent too. So there was no father there. And then this one also drew two mamas. And her son calls me Ma. And my daughter calls her mama as well. So it's like they're growing up with two moms.
Which is great.
Yeah, instead of like a mom and dad. Yeah, and they're okay with it.
But at any given point, do you feel that, did your husband take responsibility of the child ever?
No, because it got very ugly to a point where there was a tug of war for the child. Like, oh, I'm going to keep the child, and I'm going to keep the child. And that's also a very interesting story. And I was like, oh, the minute I used to leave town, he used to come and take the child. Because he used to tell my mother, she's my child and I need to take her. And my mother couldn't say anything because it is his child, right? And they wouldn't put up a fight. If I was there, I was like, no, she's got a class tomorrow, she's got this, and she's got a school, you know? So he used to wait. You know, like when I land in Kolkata, he'll go, ye number, byasto ache. So that, you know, that voice of that local station plays when you call the phone. So he would know she's out of town and he'd come and get her. And then for days, I wouldn't know where she is. I would have to call one driver and say, Saab aapke saath hain, Saab aapke saath hain, Saab aapke saath hain. And then one driver will sneak and say, nahi, wo udhar gaye, Pune mein hai. And then I'll call all the hotels and I'll say, you know, I'm Mahima Chaudhary and, you know, my husband's there with the child, I can't reach him. And then they would connect me. Otherwise, they don't connect you, right? So it used to happen like that till one day where I just had enough. And like I said, this friend of mine from Bhubaneswar, my dear friend Pooja, and she says, no, you have to stop this nonsense and you have to go to court and do all this and get yourself a lawyer. I'm getting you a lawyer tomorrow. And then the lawyer she gave me was Satish Manashinde. And he's not a divorce lawyer, he's a criminal lawyer.
Yeah.
And I sent him a text and he responded right away. So I went with him. You know, it's how people respond to you. Like maybe after him I would have said, no, I'm a criminal lawyer, let me go with someone else. But he responded right away. And he was like, yeah, come and tell me what your story is tomorrow. And I went and I told him, I briefed him, and I was obviously, while you're narrating, you're always crying, you know, because you're going through so much. He takes the child and he does this. So he's like, don't worry, we'll do this. And he set up a meeting. And I remember knowing that he's a very expensive lawyer. And I had the meeting and I was just beginning to get back to work. And you know, I hadn't, I asked him, I said, Satish, I just came back to ask you, like, I know your fee structure and stuff like that, if you could give me an idea because I need to be prepared. Like, I just wanted to know what he's going to charge. And he's like, I'm not going to charge a woman who's in distress. And this is not what I do, but I don't like it when men treat women the way they do because, you know, the law is on their side or whatever. Yeah. So I came back and then he said, I said, my lawyer would like to meet your lawyer. And he says, oh, you got yourself a lawyer. Who's your lawyer, Satish Manashinde? I said, yeah, how did you know?
It was in news?
He was actually, no, my husband called me and he says, you got yourself a lawyer. So who is it, Satish Manashinde? I was like, yeah, actually, how did you know? He was actually being sarky. Because I have no connection, no? I don't have
Oh, so he didn't know that it was... Okay.
And he knows I don't go that far and I wouldn't go through that trouble. For me, I wouldn't even take the trouble of getting a divorce. I'll just move on with life, you know. And I said, yes. And he says, oh, but he's a criminal lawyer. So I said, he'll be good for you. And then they had that one meeting and he straightened up. After that, there was no, I was like, I want nothing. I just want peace. You just have to hope and pray I don't go broke because once I do, then you'll have to take care of things. But till then, I just want to be on my own and be
Yeah.
peaceful.
And it's good, you know, it's good to have women like you who feel they can manage on their own, because I think every woman can. They don't need to
Plus,
be
the
dependent.
laws are so bad. You
Yeah.
go to court to fight for something. The laws are so lopsided. You're going to get nothing. It's not worth the
Absolutely,
trouble.
it is true. It
It's
is
not
true.
worth
I
the
agree.
trouble.
I agree. But more power to you. But on that note, we'll move on to a fun segment.
I'm going to lose this.
You will not. You will not.
I have a
can
very
assure
bad
you.
memory.
But I'm sure you will.
Aha.
We'll help you.
Okay.
So we are back with Mahima Chaudhary for our second segment, which is called I Am She. And there are 7 questions. I will help you.
Okay.
I love you way too much.
Yeah, please keep loving
That
me
I'll
till
give
end
you
of
the hamper
show.
anyway.
Yeah.
So there are 7 questions about influential women or women films, women-centric films.
Okay.
I don't want to call it female-centric films, but films led by women, okay? Or influential women.
I know
from
all of
any-
Vidya Balan's films. You can ask me questions.
Yeah, so there is something
I
like
don't
that
remember
also.
though.
There
I
is.
think
there
she's
is.
amazing.
Yeah.
Huh.
So there are 7. You have to answer 5 of them correctly, and we give you a hamper. Okay. First one. Name any 3 woman-centric films that released in the last 2-3 years. Like any 2.
Tumari Sulu,
Yeah.
Shakuntala Devi.
Wow.
And the third woman-centric, this Gunjan.
Gunjan Saxena. So you get 1 point. See, it's easy. Vidya Balan, your favorite, played a pregnant woman in search of her husband in
Kahani.
which film? 2 out of 2. Which famous choreographer, legendary choreographer, choreographed the song Chane Ke Khet?
Saroj Khanji.
See, 3 out of 3. आपको लगा था आपको नहीं मिलेगा, ये भी मिल जाएगा. Which retired IPS officer, female IPS officer, hosted a show called Aapki Kacheri?
Oh, Kiran Bedi.
Yes, it is Kiran Bedi. Without her help, huh? But
Okay, because she's become governor and all. No?
Yeah,
I simply
yeah.
forgot she was police.
yeah, 4 out of 4. एक और ये तो easy है. मैं अपनी favorite हूँ. Who said this?
Kareena Kapoor.
गिफ्ट तो मिल गया, फिर भी मैं 2 क्वेश्चंस पूछ लेता हूँ. Which actress basically made her debut with the MS Dhoni biopic?
Disha Patani.
Yeah, it is Disha Patani. And the last one. Name any 3 90s actresses who have made a comeback in the last few years.
Madhuri Dixit, Juhi Chawla, Sushmita Sen. हाँ.
7 में से 7. I think you deserve the hamper. तो मैंने तो बोला ही था कि आपको सारे questions का answers
Yes.
मिलेगा. So this hamper
Thank
you happily deserve, and you definitely deserve. So
Thank you. This is my first hamper that I've won on a TV show. I keep seeing people win hampers and it's like, oh, lovely. It's got some of the nicest things that I want.
Yes, but thank you, ma'am. I know that I've been saying this too many times, but like an Energizer bunny, I will again reiterate that this has been one of my most special interviews.
Oh, lovely.
Because
been
it's
nice.
like a kid at a candy store getting what he really wanted for years.
Oh, wow.
So thank you so much for doing this, and your story is as powerful as I thought it would be. And I always say this, that if she can, you can too.
Absolutely, you can. You can. Hi, this is Mahima Chaudhary and you're watching me on Bollywood Bubble. Please like and subscribe.